What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over kind of the opportunities and the outlooks of some of these depth charts on teams. Today's video, I'm doing the NFC North since I'm a Bears fan. It's easy to do. So, started off with the Bears and then we'll go from there. So, kind of the opportunities at quarterback, you're just looking at Caleb Williams. Brett Ripken's there. Badgett also there. But it's going to be Caleb Williams, obviously. First overall pick, going to be their guy. So not really a lot of opportunity or anything besides Caleb Williams there. The running back room is where it gets interesting for the Bears because they bring in DeAndre Swift, which having DeAndre Swift, yes, I think is an upgrade over Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson. If you compare individually, I think together Roschon and Khalil Herbert would have been a good enough running back room, right, to where you don't need to spend the money. But they did sign him. He is there. So it's going to be interesting with DeAndre Swift being there. Obviously, before going to Philly, had some health issues, but was pretty healthy in Philly for the most part. Looked really good in Philly. Now comes to Chicago. He's going to be the running back one. Heard talks of Khalil Herbert being traded. If that's the case, then yes, Roschon Johnson gets a lot of love being the RB2 in that system, kind of being the more power back. DeAndre Swift, more the explosive back. That's kind of where I'm at, right? So I'm looking at DeAndre Swift, obviously the running back one, but if we're looking at other opportunities in that running back room, it's Roschon Johnson. I like Khalil Herbert. It sucks what's happened, right? Injury as soon as he gets a shot, but he kind of is the odd man out. I believe if he's on the 53-man roster to start the season, he will still be included. I have a feeling all three of these running backs will be included. Outside of that, you're not really looking at much. Wide receivers, I think it's pretty cut and clear on who the three wide receivers are. And that will be DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then Rome Odunze. The only other opportunity that I see in this wide receiver room is Tyler Scott here. His value plummeted as soon as Rome Odunze went to Chicago. Obviously, if Rome Odunze isn't there, Tyler Scott's a wide receiver 3 on this team. And yeah, then it's not as bad, but he's a wide receiver 4. You need an injury from one of these guys because performance, even Keenan Allen, performance won't be an issue with these guys. Even if Keenan Allen's not playing to what he once was, he's still going to be very good at what he can do. So Tyler Scott's pretty much the only guy I'm looking at. Still just 22, right? 6 months older than Rome Odunze. So injury happens, you could fill Tyler Scott in. Obviously, there's a lot of mouths to feed in the Chicago offense. With not only these top 3 receivers, the running back room I think is very, very good. And then Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. So even if Tyler Scott gets those opportunities, it doesn't mean much for the most part, right? But I did think he looked good in the opportunities he got last season. And then, yeah, I mentioned tight end room. I think Gerald Everett, like, if you need a just another tight end, right? You got 1 or 2 really good tight ends, or you got one good. Gerald Everett's not obviously going to outsnap Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet, I think the most snaps for tight end, right, on a team. I don't think anyone comes close to that. Gerald Everett, though, if an opportunity comes to where Cole Kmet is hurt, but I still see the Bears having some 2 tight end formations. Gerald Everett, with getting paid what he's going to get paid, I imagine the Bears are going to find a way to use Gerald Everett. Other than that, I'm not interested in tight end 3s, especially with who the Bears have. Then we go on to the next NFC North team, which is the Detroit Lions. Quarterback, same thing. Jared Goff locked in as the quarterback, gets the extension. Hendon Hooker, Nate Studfield are the other 2 quarterbacks. Hendon Hooker, I mean, I'm not comparing Hendon Hooker and Michael Penix, obviously, but Hendon Hooker, a day 2 draft pick. Michael Penix, a top 10 draft pick, but the age, right? If you were looking for some value out of Hendon Hooker, it's pretty much gone now being in Detroit, unless Jared Goff gets hurt. Still, even then, you need performance out of Hendon Hooker. So 26 years old, that's very worrisome if you're invested in him. The running back room, pretty straightforward. It's Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Outside of that, it will be Craig Reynolds, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, right? We know what they're going to do. They're probably going to do the same thing they did last season as far as usage with these 2 running backs. More long-term, you're going to look at Jahmyr Gibbs, but they're going to bring someone in whenever they are done with David Montgomery, right? So David Montgomery still got 2 years left on his deal, I believe. So it's nothing that's happening this season, but down the road. But the running back room is pretty simple. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. Even if one of them goes down, the other one's just going to get more snaps. And Craig Reynolds is then going to get some, and he is going to be 28 when the season starts, or almost 28, actually. The wide receiver room, now, this is where some opportunities are going to be interesting, right? So we already know Amon-Ra, one of the best receivers in the league, top 5 dynasty wide receiver, right? And then you get Jameson Williams, who, if you invested in him, you're waiting for this season. This is the season you've been waiting for to get your evaluation out of him. The suspension, injury, he's back healthy, he's back working, still just 23 years old, so he's young enough. Now, with Reynolds obviously not being on the team anymore, Jameson Williams goes into that wide receiver 2 role. Big, deep ball threat, so hopefully we see that. We see what we saw out of him at Alabama before he got hurt, before the suspension. Kind of towards the end of the season, you saw glimpses of what Jameson Williams could be if he takes that next step, right? It all depends on him and the work he puts in that offense. The opportunities are going to be there in this passing offense. And then Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones are kind of the next 2 guys I'm looking at. Green, I'm not really interested in at all. I'm looking at Raymond and Peoples-Jones, and this is where you could take a shot, right? Obviously, they're going to be the 4th pass catcher in this offense, going to be behind Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Laporta, probably Gibbs and Montgomery too, but they're going to be that 4th, 5th target in this offense. We obviously saw Reynolds and Raymond have those games where they got you 10 plus fantasy points, but if you're expecting a lot out of that, no, right? I'm not investing really anything in these guys. Obviously, if they're available, I'm kind of thin on wide receiver. I want to pick up a guy in a top 10 offense. Then, yeah, you can make your bet, but you're still betting on Khalif Raymond or Donovan Peoples-Jones, which is risky nonetheless. And then tight end, Sam Laporta, obviously top 2 dynasty tight end, depending on how you look at it. But Brock Wright, I like Brock Wright. I do. I think he got some work in when Laporta was banged up, or they ran 2 tight ends. Laporta was tired. Brock Wright made some plays. Obviously, having a tight end 2 in this offense isn't the greatest. You're hoping a young Sam Laporta gets hurt. But if that opportunity comes, then yes, Brock Wright, if he's available on waivers, if something happens to Laporta, I don't like to predict injuries. That's just a terrible way of looking at fantasy and outcomes and stuff like that. I'm not ever going to predict an injury. I'm just saying if an injury happens, then yes, he's a good waiver wire pickup. Obviously, teams are going to own Brock Wright being on a top 10 offense. So you just want some part of it. But if he is available, if something happens throughout the season, I think Brock Wright is a very solid pickup. And that's pretty much it for Detroit. Now we go on to Green Bay. You get Jordan Love. Hopefully the franchise quarterback for the Packers. I don't hope so, right? As a Bears fan, I don't hope so. I hope he has a terrible season, right? But with my bias aside, it's Jordan Love, right? Had an amazing season, kind of proved the waiting behind Aaron Rodgers, right? So definitely paid off. Believe he is going to get paid after this season. So if he starts flashing early, you're looking at that contract and looking in at a locked Jordan Love. Sean Clifford, and I think Pratt is who they just got as their other quarterback. Clifford's pretty much the guy that's going to go in if Love goes down, though. The running back room is where it gets interesting here, and you get some opportunities, right? Marshawn Lloyd, a lot of people like coming out of college. Not the worst landing spot for him, to be honest. There's better, right? But I don't think it's the worst being, competing with A.J. Dillon, right? A.J. Dillon looked really good his first year and then just has completely fallen off, right? We thought he was going to be a Derrick Henry esque running back. Obviously not where Derrick Henry was in his prime, but kind of where you saw Derrick Henry early on in his career. A.J. Dillon hopefully filling in to that kind of role. It just never came. He had a lot of opportunities with Aaron Jones being out and just never made it work. So they bring in a younger Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, obviously 26, but Josh Jacobs had, injury problems last season. Marshawn Lloyd has a really good opportunity to take that running back 2 role. We've seen in LaFleur's offense that they use 2 running backs quite a bit, right? They don't want to kill the fatigue and the body of their running back 1. So Marshawn Lloyd, A.J. Dillon are going to be fighting for those snaps, and I think Marshawn Lloyd takes it easy. Obviously, A.J. Dillon is still going to get snaps, right? RB3s are going to get snaps no matter what. It might not be a lot, but they're going to get some snaps. Doesn't mean they're going to get volume, right? They might just be in for a pass block, but they're going to get in the game. So these 3 guys are going to be in. I just like Marshawn Lloyd to take that RB2 spot over A.J. Dillon. And then we go to the wide receivers where there is a lot of opportunity. If you were invested in a Green Bay wide receiver, you were hoping you pick the right one. You get Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. Those 4 guys, right? Like, all of them had glimpses of being the wide receiver 1 on this team. Now, none of them can pull away because I think they're so young and so competitive, right? And they have a respect for each other to, block for them, do whatever they can to help each other out because that's what they want in return. But these 4 guys are competing for 3 spots pretty much, right? Now, they're going to get snaps. Even Bo Melton's going to get snaps. But if you are invested in Wicks, Watson, Doubs, Reed, it is tough, right? I think if you're a best ball owner and you have one of these guys, you feel good. If you're starting one of these guys, like Jayden Reed and Romeo Doubs are your 2 best bets. Watson and Wicks are kind of your oddballs as far as consistency. But we've seen Christian Watson have some really takeover games as that wide receiver. Dontavian Wicks, when he got opportunities, looked really, really good in that offense. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for this wide receiver room, both up and down, right? One of these guys is going to have a badder season, right? Maybe even 2. Somebody's going to have a good season. Someone's going to have a not so good season. It's just how it's got to be, right? If they're all healthy, it's going to be very competitive for snaps and volume. So it's a big risk in a starting lineup. Obviously, I want Jayden Reed or Romeo Doubs, preferably Reed, but still, the opportunity for the other 3 receivers is there, including Bo Melton, too. I still think Bo Melton was all right in their offense. Nothing special, but all right. And then the tight end room, obviously, is another one where you're hoping it's Luke Musgrave, but Tucker Kraft got some volume, right? Both day 2 picks. Age, pretty much same. Height, pretty much same. Weight, pretty much same. Speed, Musgrave's got that speed on him, but this is a 50-50. I don't think either one has kind of overtaken the other one to get a majority snaps. I think they're going to split snaps unless one of them pulls away from the other one or the other one starts to underperform. But that's kind of where you're at with the tight end room in Green Bay. And then last but not least, we go to Minnesota. Minnesota is the only one where I have some quarterback competition in this division. With J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold, right? They could roll out J.J. McCarthy week 1. I wouldn't be surprised. They could throw Sam Darnold out there week 1. I'm not surprised, right? So I think the opportunity for Sam Darnold to get starts this season while J.J. McCarthy's healthy is a very, very good possibility. This team is still very competitive. You look at the talent they have on offense. You go and look at the pieces they brought in defensively to kind of rebuild their defense. You look at their defense coordinator, right? So this team is competitive. If J.J. McCarthy is not up to par, right, there's nothing wrong with it. He's a 21-year-old quarterback that's been a system quarterback, which is not a bad thing. I'm not the biggest fan of J.J. McCarthy, right? But I'm going to put my bias aside and say that J.J. McCarthy might need to learn, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We've seen quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and now Jordan Love be successful sitting a season. Jordan Love sitting, 2-3 seasons and getting that experience and learning from a quarterback. Even though it's Sam Darnold, it's still learning, right? You're learning all the little things that comes with being a starting quarterback. So am I surprised if it's J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold week 1? I am not. That is going to be something we're going to watch. Obviously, you're going to want your quarterback that you took in the first round to be your guy early on, but it may not happen, right? There might be things to where they're not as comfortable or confident with, and it just takes time to develop. Sam Darnold starts a few weeks. whether he plays good or not, that urge to get your hopeful franchise quarterback in there is always something that fans demand. So I think this is the only team in the NFC North that has that quarterback where you could get starts out of, both of them without an injury, right? Williams is going to be the starting quarterback. We already know Jared Goff is. We already know Jordan Love is. But Minnesota is where I could see either of these guys starting week 1. Running back Aaron Jones, right? Obviously, going to be turning 30 this season. Still had a really solid year when he was healthy. That is the downside. Outside of him, you're looking at Ty Chandler, Ngwagu, and McBride as kind of those backups running backs. And all of them got opportunities. And besides McBride, I don't think McBride really did, but Chandler and Ngwagu just small. I don't even think it was just special teams pretty much, but Chandler got some work in. So finding an RB2 is a good possibility. I hope it's McBride. I invested into him last season, picking him up. Obviously didn't play, so it didn't do much, but I think the opportunity is there. Obviously Aaron Jones, 30, has had health problems the last, 2-3 years, especially last season. Couldn't seem to get fully healthy. So the opportunity in the running back room is there as well. Obviously, Aaron Jones is the running back 1 to start the season, but at running back 2, and if Aaron Jones's history repeats itself, right, I'm not projecting an injury, but if the history repeats itself, there is going to be some opportunity for some games to start. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson just got the biggest non-quarterback contract in the NFL history. Jordan Addison, my dark horse rookie of the year last season didn't come to fruition, but he's still there. He's still a stud, in my opinion, right? Looked really good when Justin Jefferson was down and Kirk Cousins was down, and brought some hope to that team. And then Brandon Powell, I think, is a solid wide receiver 3. I think N'Keal Harry's there. Sherfield's there. Jalen Naylor. There's not a really solid wide receiver 3 outside of Brandon Powell. And I think Brandon Powell, right, KJ Osborne's gone now, so I think Brandon Powell fills in that third wide receiver. And he looked good for the opportunity he get, right? I wasn't excited about it, but I wasn't disappointed. So I think he kind of fits in that wide receiver 3 role. I don't think any other wide receiver on that team kind of competes enough to get enough volume to put Brandon Powell out of that job. And then tight end, like Minnesota has a lot of opportunities going into the season. TJ Hawkinson, I don't know when he's going to be healthy. Their tight end room is so confusing to figure out who's going to be the tight end 2, who's going to take over tight end 1. We have Hawkinson out. Johnny Munnett filled in, right? He saw 70% in the last 2 weeks of the NFL season and had good games. So I don't know if they're going to go and try Josh Oliver again. Obviously, they bring in Robert Tonyan because of TJ Hawkinson's situation. You don't know when he's going to be back healthy, so you want to make sure your other 3 tight ends are solid. So you're taking a risk. Obviously, if you look at the ages, besides TJ Hawkinson, obviously he's a top 5 dynasty tight end, but you look at the guys that are going to get opportunities with him gone. 29-year-old Johnny Munnett, 27-year-old Josh Oliver, and 30-year-old Robert Tonyan. So in my opinion, you're looking at Johnny Munnett or Robert Tonyan. I think Josh Oliver is kind of the odd man out. And then you're just rolling a dice on either Robert Tonyan or Johnny Munnett kind of having success, I guess. But you also have to realize they're going to have J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold as their quarterbacks versus what they had last season, which could be an upgrade besides Kirk Cousins, in my opinion. But it could be an upgrade to the other quarterback play, and they had a lot of it. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. Like I said, this is not, we're months away from the preseason and in the 53-man roster. This is kind of the early outlook as of right now on some of these. I'll go over each of the divisions and kind of give the outlook of where those positions are at. So hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.